Good evening. We wait for everyone to join in and then we start our journey again. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening, good evening. Post independence after 1947. After 1947. Last one, either a Saturday or a Sunday will be like that only. It's only 3 modules. That's it. Yeah, we changed the pattern of webinars subject wise so that your current affairs is more better sorted. So, for example, I think from this month itself, you will have a new schedule. No GS paper 1, 2. Rather, we'll go for something more concrete, which is art and culture, economy, this and that. Perfect, Aniket. That is true for ancient and medieval also. You can use that also. Each subject wise, yes. So it has polity different, economy different, art and culture different, international relations is different. Everyone is different. You want to know the schedule? You want to know the schedule? 2023 prelims ideally starts. See, prelims preparation starts from February. 1 second, I'm telling you. Uh, yes, for example, fifth international relations, then seventh Indian economy, thereafter 12th polity and governance, one on Yojana Kurukshetra Strait, then 19th it's going to be me, art and culture, then science and technology, then environment and ecology, and then social issues. So you have equal number of what we call as webinars, but the agenda is different. I had attended world history, modern India. Modern history makes more sense now. And I told you, if you know world history and if you know modern India together, it becomes a very clear picture of everything. Everything becomes clear. It's like it's like a it's like a jigsaw puzzle. Sits very well together. Very, very well together. See, current affairs, remember last 2 years have to know. 1.5 for sure. You have to. That ancient and medieval, when you do it with me, Kulam, that will also go away. I'm planning to start my revision from the half of this month. Yes, Justin, once you've covered all subjects in one go, then you just keep on revising the static. I'll wait 1 more minute and then we start. Strategy for 2026. Revise 10 times before you go for 2026. Current affairs from 2024 to 26 is going to be very, very important. If you're covering it right now, very, very good. Current affairs should be on your fingertips, and static you should be at least have done it 4 times properly and 5 revisions for sure. This is the strategy for 2026. You have too much time. 3 years is a lot of time. How to keep track of CA for 2024? You can go through the webinar. Once you go through the webinar, you can go through the monthly magazine. Monthly magazine is going to be very important for revision. Whatever magazine you like. Should I panic with the time left or focus on revising? You don't need to panic in any moment. For 2024, simply till December and maximum January, cover your static and your mains oriented areas. From February onwards, become prelims oriented. That's it. Okay. So we start again, and this period between 1897 to 1915 is a very interesting one. Engineering student, how much time I have to give? As much as you can. As much as you can. Without jeopardizing your engineering studies, as much as you can. You can, Priya, that is more than enough. But for current affairs, you have to go through webinars and the monthly magazine. That is for sure. CNA, what it does is it removes the need for reading the newspaper. Okay. So this period is a very interesting one because we are now going back to one more thing. What we've covered till this point is called political extremism. But extremist politics manifested itself in two forms. One is political extremism. The second one is more interesting, which is revolutionary activities. And this is the first phase. This is where you have between 1897 to 1915 two types of revolutionaries in India and abroad, and they were more active between 1897 to 1914. They were more active between 1913 to 1915. And the agenda is to understand this timeline for today. Like Hindu or Indian Express, both are equally good. There's a myth that Hindu is a necessary, but sure, why not? Indian Express, equally good newspaper. If you like Indian Express, not a problem. Now, there's a timeline which I'm going to make in front of you. This is the timeline which we need to cover today, and I think half of it will happen tomorrow, which is this one. And I will start with one topic, which is constitutional history, so that there is no discontinuity in that story in that regard. So 1897. Thereafter, we have 1899, then 1902, then 1904, then 1906, thereafter 1907, 1908, 1909, 1912, 1913, 1914, 1915, and 1916. Each of these is a very important date, which is that 1897 we have the Chapekar brothers, Rand's assassination. 1899 is Mitra Mela formation by Savarkar brothers. 1902 is Anusilan Samiti founded. 1904 is Mitra Mela becomes Abhinav Bharat. 1906 is Yugantar Group. Yugantar Group rises within Anushilan. 1907, now the activities will start. These are two activities done by Anushilan and Yugantar. Fuller's assassination attempt and Fraser's assassination attempt. Thereafter, 1908 is very significant, very important, because we have Kingsford assassination, which is also called Alipur conspiracy case. 1909 is three things in 1909. One is called A.M.T. Jackson assassination. Second is Morley Minto reforms. Morley Minto reforms. And the last is Curzon Willie assassination by Madan Lal Dhingra. Madan Lal Dhingra. Madan Lal Dhingra. This is going to be in London. Thereafter, 1912, Harding's bombing. And this period is of the Gadar movement. World War I, Lucknow Pact. This line timeline you will not find anywhere because it's bringing in 2-3 timelines together. Chapekar is Bombay, Bengal, Bombay, Bengal. This is both in Bengal. This is Bombay. This is Delhi. This is USA, San Francisco. This is in Lucknow, as it says. Basically, this is the timeline which we have to cover. But if you can see, there's one odd one out here. All dates written here are important. There's one odd one out here. Morley Minto reforms. Everything else is what we call as revolutionary activities, part 1. Now, if this is basically clear to you, I've obviously not taught anything. What I want to do is First, tell you what is the difference between a political extremist and an extremist revolutionary activity or revolutionary leader, and then do the odd one out, which is Morley Minto reforms. What about 1919? I will discuss that tomorrow, which is Montague Chelmsford. That is for tomorrow. If this makes sense to you, then I would like to talk about Morley Minto first, because that is out of the way. And I can then concentrate on the basic picture of revolutionary activities. So can I first discuss the difference between a revolutionary leader and a political extremist, and then talk about Morley Minto. Can I? Yes, no, I have to say something. Yes, sir. Okay. So see, a political extremist, for example, Lal Bal Pal, they believe in INC based politics, revolutionary agenda within INC, constitutional protest, mass action. On the other hand, a revolutionary leader or extremists, they talk about individual action, assassination, instill fear in the heart of the Britisher, show protest via violence, wherein you are being very clear in saying that what you want to do. Revolutionary leaders, they don't believe in negotiation. It's about action over negotiation. They wanted to send a message to every British officer that if you come to India, you are not welcome here. If you come to India, you are not welcome here. You think that Indians are passive, that Indians are not going to say anything. We want to show you very clearly that Indians are going to do something. Indians are going to destroy everything. And we are maybe constitutionally divided, but we are very clear in telling that the youth of India does not like you. So next time when you get posted in India, you should not be happy, because now if you are a bad officer, for example, a simple plague commissioner or the district magistrate or a judge who is not very cooperative, who's very problematic, who's very sadistic, who's doing bad for Indians, he will be shot, he will be dead, we will do something to make sure that you feel that we are going to destroy you. And the idea was, as Yugantar used to say, that if 30 crore Indians use their 60 crore hands, they can very simply shake off the British yoke from India. So for them, action was very, very important. This is a very decisive concept for them, wherein action and assassination, individual heroism, we will create a new wave of fear in the British officers, hit the ICS, hit the British bureaucracy, and show them who we really are. Now, this story I will discuss with you once I've done Morley Minto with you. Morley Minto I want to discuss because it is a very interesting concept and the rise of communal consciousness in India. So can I go Morley Minto? Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm straight away going to constitutional history, and we'll come back to the story, yes, of revolutionary activities later. Right now, I would rather want to discuss constitutional history, Morley Minto. Now, the structure which was created in 1892, Indian Council Act, was very straightforward, which is, if you remember, that you have the Secretary of State plus 15 members called the India House or Council, Governor General of India and Viceroy, the Central Legislative Council and Executive Council. And under that, he has 6 governors: Madras, Bombay, Bengal, Awadh, Punjab, and Northwestern sector. All of them have their own provincial legislative councils. And this is basically the structure which was in place. Now, if you remember, 1906 to 1909 is the period in which there's a lot of demand for further enlargement of the legislative council. But in 1906, the Muslim League and the Shimla deputation, they have argued that Muslim interest is separated or separate from Hindu interest. Now, this is called communal consciousness. Communal consciousness. Now, please understand something. Communalism, as a word, when it is used, communism has a very specific connotation. Conflict between two communities equals to communalism. That is why the word community, communalism. This is a generic definition. A generic definition. In the Indian context, communalism has a very specific connotation, and that is the engineered hatred and antagonism between Hindus and Muslims is called communalism. This word engineered is very important because it was developed by the British, and the British cultivated this after the Swadeshi movement, 1905 onwards. They actively did something which is the concept of separate interests for separate groups. And they cultivated this idea. Now you tell me, for example, you are 100 people in the class. If you elect one representative, that one person represents the interest of how many? For example, there are 50 men and 50 women. He represents the interest of the 100 people. Now, the idea is that if this one person will go and speak to me, he argues that the men and women have interests which are aligned. So if he is saying that everybody wants notes means everybody wants notes. This is pre, if you want to say Swadeshi movement, that if the nationalists said something, it represented the masses' will, everyone's interest. But what Curzon taught was that out of these 50 men and women, I don't want one representative. I want two representatives. Which is one a man and the other one a woman. And both should meet me separately. Therefore, what I have done is I have argued that the women have an interest not aligned with men, and the vice versa here. So I am creating two divisions, a Hindu and a Muslim, and arguing that people who have stayed together for 700 years having no difference of interest, the British have now created a situation in which they are arguing that Hindus and Muslims are separately aligned. And therefore, they have separate interests. Now, if I will listen to only one of you, either the men or the women, what will happen to both of your groups? If I will start to prefer one of you, and that is what is going to happen, which is conflict. If I choose either's interest, it creates conflict. So please be very sure to know that Hindu-Muslim interest, which is called Hindu-Muslim violence and conflict, was never organic or natural. It was a created division. It's a created division. Even before British Hindu-Muslim. Again, Sahithi, have you done medieval with me? That is why that question. What you are telling me is that during Mughal period, there was a separate demand that there should be one Mughal India and there should be one more India, which is Hindu India. Conflict and coming together happens at different point of time. Nobody is saying that there was no conflict between different religions. What I am trying to argue to you is, at the grassroots level in a neighborhood, were people of the Hindu community asking the Muslim community that we want a separate nation, we want a separate nation? Conflict is not equal to hatred, is not equal to new nation, and conflict does not always mean grassroots level conflict. What you are, your comment itself is what the British has taught us. Exactly what your comment is. but you worded it in such a way that I can't write it, I can't show it to everybody. So for the benefit of the doubt, you've not done medieval. I'll keep it away from everyone. But the point is that violence happens amongst brothers. Violence, political violence happened throughout ancient India. Political violence happened across medieval India. You are mistaking political violence for real grassroots level violence. If Aurangzeb is doing something, if he is destroying a temple, for example, in your language, Aurangzeb's destruction of a temple is called political violence, politico-religious violence. But it did not mean that every Hindu and Muslim in India started to now argue that our interests are separate. Please understand this point. It is not that, see, understand, when in Diwane-Aam, Mughals used to meet the people, there was no division between Muslim and Hindus. Everybody meets. That's why it's called Diwane-Aam. Everyone is the same. Jains have seen destruction from Buddhists. Buddhists have seen from Jains. Jain Hinduism. All of the concept of ancient India is a conflict between Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism. But that did not mean that the Buddhists said that we needed a separate nation. Jain said that we needed a separate nation. Hindu said we needed a separate nation. The problem which you are saying is, or what you are articulating is, a very dangerous type of argument which comes out of engineered hatred only. The problem is that there are people sitting on YouTube, there are people sitting with no degrees whatsoever, zero qualification, nothing at all, no ideas of history, having their own agendas, random people talking about a lot of things who have not done anything in their own life. They will give you solutions for things which actually cannot or were not there only. Nobody was actively creating hatred in medieval. Akbar or Aurangzeb never said that I will only create Taj Mahal for the Muslims. Or in Shahjahanabad, which is the Chandni Chowk area, Delhi 6, only Muslims will remain. Never did they perpetuate that. The British perpetuated this concept via the partition of Bengal, that the Muslims are better off without the Hindus. And the Muslim community should be, and the Hindu community should be separated from each other. It is only then that Muslims can go forward. I told you a concept of shared past and shared future. Did I use these words for unity? Unity and sense of togetherness. That is what is nationalism. Yes or no? Nationalism is the concept of shared unity and shared past and future. What the British taught us is, we have different pasts. Ancient Hindu, medieval Muslim, modern British. And we have a separate future also. A Muslim future will never align with the Hindu future. They basically forgot what Vivekananda said. That only when these two communities come together, that India can go forward. So what you have said to me, Sahiti, is a communalistic understanding of history itself. And if it is very hard for you to understand or digest this, that the communalistic history in India is engineered, I will show it to you. Because the hero of communalism in India, Jinnah, between 1906 to 1936, for 30 years was nothing. He was part of the Home Rule League also. He was part of the Rowlatt Satyagraha also. He was part of the Champaran movement also. He was part of the Khilafat movement also. He was everywhere. He was part of the Rowlatt Satyagraha. When happened, he was the one who resigned also. You will find his name everywhere. He was part of the INC also. After 1936 to 1946, this 10 years, it is a viceroy called Linlithgow who will basically make Jinnah a zero to a hero. So he will travel around. So unfortunately, I have to tell you this, that this is communalism. And that is why Minto, who introduced the Indian Council Act 1909, he is considered the father of communalistic politics and representation. And you should be very clear, that till 1909, between 1906 and 1909, there was a very simple concept that joint electorates, which is reserved seat, joint electorates should be taken. But once revolutionary action became very clear, revolutionary action between 1907, 8 and 9, this will make Minto very clear, along with Morley, who's the Secretary of State. They saw a very important concept that we need to divide India. Divide Indians, and that is why they will not choose joint electorates, they will choose separate electorates. And that is why I have to explain to you what does separate electorate mean in that figure. I wonder why we don't hate Britishers the same extent we hate other communities. That is the point. That is the point. Somehow we don't hate Britishers. The hate which should have been directed towards the Britishers has been directed towards a nation called Pakistan. And today we feel very proud to go to London, to Britain, to America to study. I'll come to that. I'm coming to what a separate electorate means. The simple point I'm trying to argue to you is very simple, straightforward. I have to discuss an act with you, but I'm trying to discuss something more deeper. I'm trying to introduce communalism to you. Communalism is not given. Antagonism between communities in India, specifically Hindu and Muslim, is not given. Between 1206 to 1707 to 1757, for 500 to 600 years, very simply, no idea of separate interests, only political and religious, or what we call as politico-religious violence. Please be very clear about this. Antagonism means conflict. Why America, they did nothing. At least they are white men. That's a different point altogether. This, if you will ever understand, then you will realize one thing, that the British taught us something. Communalism, again, Siddhya, wake up. Communalism is conflict between two communities. In Indian context, this is the definition. Definition is engineered hatred and antagonism between Hindus and Muslims. So, very simply, please be clear that we have still not forgot this. We have still not forgot this, because communism has taken a new form. Separate interests, interest and pressure groups, and the concept that we cannot have same future or shared interest. Be it caste, be it gender, be it varna, be it religion, be it anything. We were taught to be divided, and we love to be divided. We as Indians are the ones which remain divided. Now, what I'm going to do here is very simply, I have introduced communalism to you. Does anybody disagree or have any issue in this? Does anybody have any issue here? Because if you understand what is communalism, if you understand what is Morley Minto's larger concept, then we can talk about the act itself. But before we do that, I'll give you a breather, because then I will go on straight till 8. I don't want to stop in between, because you will ask for it. So I've taught you communalism, introduced you to the concept. I have told you a timeline we have to cover. I've told you I'm doing the odd one out, and I'm talking about communal consciousness and the concept of communalism, a concept which was engineered by the British very well, a very simple concept which was developed specifically for India, and it was an answer. Communalism was the poison for nationalism. This is the master key. This is the master key. The key to our slow nationalism, for division, for delayed independence, for destroying nationalism, the key was communism. If we fight amongst ourselves, the British now will change. See, British, how they justified their act. Previously, they said that it's moral. Then they said economic. We destroyed both of them. Now they will say that if we are not there, both will kill each other. So they have now become mediators. I hope you have heard about the story about the cat and the third person getting the children's fable, that when two people fight, the third person gets the advantage. That third person is the British. The British straightforward now said, if we are not here, they will destroy each other. The cat and the monkey story, yes. They were the only reason why we were not rioting. But if you remember, they are the ones who created it also. So they shifted it from moral to economic to now again something which they used to love, religious or communalism. If this does not open your eyes right now, I don't know what will. Once we get into communal conflicts, the fights for a common future, that is nationalism, dies down. So demand for nation goes down. Humongous loss. Yes, that is the basic point. The point is, then you are going to pull apart. Now, what nation should be given independence? You will see Muslim League will delay independence, because every time when INC used to say that we want to create independence, we want independence, which independence? What independence? The fact that the second roundtable conference, Gandhi had to fight with the Minority Pact was the problem. So the British now said that, okay, we are not here to destroy you. We are not here to do anything. We are here to make sure that you don't cut each other's throat. But who told us or who taught us that we cannot live together? They do it everywhere. They do it everywhere. In Africa, it was ethnic violence. In India, it is religious violence. Israel, Palestine is all created like this. It's a very simple, straightforward template. And we still do it. So on this note, we take a break. We come back at 7 p.m. and we'll take the story forward. Yes? Yes? We'll discuss Morley Minto reforms. Okay, perfecto. Welcome back. We must use time as a tool, not as a couch. JF Kennedy. Justin, very, very good, very good. You know what Kennedy did? Have any idea what Kennedy did? JF Kennedy got shot, but generally, what is Kennedy remembered for? Can anybody tell me? I have already told you in class. No, it's not World War One, Cold War politics. It's not related to that. Was totally different person. Roosevelt. Have you heard about someone called Batista, and the concept of Cuban crisis, and something called the Bay of Pigs incident, where Batista supporters were going to remove nobody but Fidel Castro? Know anything about this? He's the one who supported a dictator. JF Kennedy is known for that only. Justin, I remember who you're quoting. He used it as a couch only. But yes. Can we start again? Yes, Fidel Castro defeated Batista and then Cuban Missile Crisis. Yes. Okay. Now, in order to discuss 1909, I have to discuss with you what is the difference between separate electorates and joint electorate, in which both you have reserved seats. First, I have to explain this to you. Now, today in India, let's take a constituency. Please pay attention. Let's take a constituency. For example, now this constituency A constituency. I'm coming to what is electorate, don't worry. There are 4 communities here. There are 5,000 Muslims, 1,000 Buddhist, 1,000 Sikhs, and 3,000 Hindus. So total number of people in this place is how much? Total number is how much? 10,000. Now I reserve this constituency, meaning the position for standing for election is a reserved seat, and the reserved seat is for a Muslim. So I have reserved this seat for a Muslim. So now X, Y, Z, and W stand for elections. What is going to be common between X, Y, Z, and W? What is going to be common about X, Y, Z, and W? That they will be Muslims, because it's a reserved seat for Muslims. So it will be a Muslim. So what is common to all of them and that they're from the Muslim community? That is what you mean by reserved seat. However, because it's a joint electorate, this means that X, Y, Z, W, when there will be voting, total number of votes is going to be 10,000, which means that though the seat is reserved for 500 for the 5,000 Muslims, because Muslim dominated area, these 3 communities are not disenfranchised. Not disenfranchised. Meaning that very simply you have a joint electorate of 10,000, but they choose a reserved candidate. Now, this is a very good concept because you are protecting the community also, but you're also allowing everyone to be a part of it. The example of this could be very simple. You are here 100 students. There are 80 women and 20 men. So what I say is that the candidate I want as class monitor needs to be women. But it will be a joint electorate. So for example, Pooja and Meghna are standing for the election. What would be the total number of votes cast? Total number of votes cast. Very good. 100. 100. Because Pooja and Meghna are both women. This seat is reserved for women, but it is joint electorate, meaning these 20 men have a say in who will become the candidate. So I have protected the women, but also I have also not disenfranchised the men. The men still have a say in who will become the next class monitor. Now you have the concept of same constituency, same way of division, 5,000 Muslims, 3,000 Hindus, 1,000 Sikhs, 1,000, for example, Buddhist. Now again I say it is a reserved seat for Muslims. So again, what is common between X, Y, Z and W will be what? What is common between X, Y, Z, W? That they are Muslims. However, I say separate electorates. So now the total number of votes is only going to be 5,000. Meaning Muslim seats, only Muslims can vote. And therefore, I have directly disenfranchised the minorities. Similar example, 100 people, 80 women, 20 men. Pooja and Meghna have stood. Seat is reserved for women. So now what will be the total number? Only 80. Men cannot vote because it is a separate electorate. One thing which students don't understand very clearly is that reserved seat is not the real criterion. You can reserve a seat for anybody. What really matters is that is it a joint electorate, meaning voters, or a separate electorate, which is separate voters. This is a master stroke of the British. This is the Pooja and Meghna cannot vote for themselves. Priya, in India, you can vote for yourself. You can. Every candidate can vote for oneself. And you don't go into the maths. the point is that in the context of what is happening in India, this is a literal masterstroke, because now the British can give Muslims separate electorates, and by doing that, in that area itself, all Hindus get disenfranchised. Now you tell me, how will I feel as a Hindu? So you see, the Muslims did not do anything, but they were used by the British to instigate the Hindus. And what will happen is that this is a slippery slope. This is a slippery slope, because when the Muslims got it, the Sikhs said, why not us? Then the Anglo-Indian said, we can also have this. The Indian Christians said, let us also get something like this. Then the women were also given that let all women in India also have separate electorates. And when it will be given to depressed classes, what Dr. Ambedkar was asking for a very long time, Pune Pact, Gandhi. Today in India, we follow reserved seats, joint electorates. After independence, we never use separate electorates, because separate electorates divides everybody like anything. Imagine in the example which I gave you, in which I said, for example, there are women and men in class 100 and 200. I reserve this seat for men, and I say separate electorate. I can do one thing very clearly. I can first remove these women, but I say that separate electorates for only one person, or for people whose first word is A and also ends with A. So I have now further subdivided the men to say that only these people can vote. Why did Indians agree? We didn't agree anything. This was pushed on to us. Now you see what the British is doing is, what they're doing is they're going to increase the number of seats in the PLC and the CLC, which is Provincial Legislative Council, and the Central Legislative Council. They will increase the seats. But why is increasing the seats? They will say that we will give separate electorates to Muslims. And by doing that, what they're doing is that they are making sure that the increased seats only create more division. And they did one more thing. Muslims got more representation than their population, and their voting criteria, the what we call as income criteria, was lower. What is the concept of population? How much population becomes one constituency in India? What is the cutoff? One constituency delimitation happens according to what? One constituency is going to be how much? Not 20 lakhs. Not 1 lakh. 1 million. 10 lakhs. Written in Lakshmikant. Check the election chapter. Side corner, small box. Says 1 million. One constituency per million. Now you think what the British did, and this is the most dangerous thing they could do. The British did what? That if the constituency has, for example, 5,000 Hindus, 4,000 Muslims, 1,000 Indian Christians, and 1,000 Buddhists, rather than giving it separate joint electorates, they will reserve the seat for Muslims. So 4,000 people are getting disenfranchised for 7,000 people getting disenfranchised. This is why Minto is called as the father of communal electorate in India. They want division. They want the communities to now fight. Because if you are a Hindu or a Christian or a Sikh in this area, would you be the one who will say that I cannot choose who my representative is? Imagine the level of hatred this will spread. Because now you don't look at the Muslim as a community, you look at them as a political community or a political group. So now everybody reached to the British saying, हमें भी दे दो, give it to us also, give it to us please, हमें भी चाहिए, we want. And by the Government of India Act 1935, you believe, I will tell you, women, labor, depressed classes, Sikh, Anglo-Indians, Europeans, Indian Christians, all had been granted. This grant will come under 1919 Act. This grant will come under 1935 Act. Even after when the Pune Pact had happened in 1932, they still gave the depressed classes separate electorates. Imagine the level of the way the Indian society had been divided. All to divide the Hindu nationalist. Imagine. This is unprecedented in the way that you have one division or one, every part of India now votes within itself and lakhs of people are becoming disenfranchised. So very simply, 1905 to 1909, this consideration was in a lot of understanding. Morley and Minto were basically writing every month about this, that should we go for separate electorates or not. Minto was not even convinced about separate electorates. It is the Shimla deputation and it is Curzon's politics that convinced the Shimla deputation that it is in their interest to say to Minto, and more than that, 1907, 1908, 1909, this period has a lot of assassinations. So they could see that a person is becoming too dangerous. Indians are now getting united against the British. This is unprecedented. So before I go to the other provisions, which are quite simple, straightforward, do you understand the concept of separate electorates and joint electorates? This is a very important point. No book will explain this to you, because what happens is that people think that only reserved seats are the concept of separate electorates. No. India till today follows reserved seats. We have reserved seats, joint electorates. Reserved seats, joint electorates. We should worship our constituent assembly that they literally did a major masterstroke by removing separate electorates. Because separate interests never take anybody nowhere. This is the point you need to understand beyond exception. Please be very, very clear that joint electorates still exist, but in the examination, if it says reserved seat, it means nothing until unless it does not say joint or separate. Because I'll show you a question which came in the examination, which actually played with this concept itself. Are we clear about this? Are we? Because then I discuss the other provisions. One second. I want to reserve seats come from this. Yes. The concept of reserve seats is nothing new. Reserve seats is there in England also. But the concept of reserved seat joint electorate is everywhere. The concept of reserved seat separate electorate is not everywhere. Separate electorate in a way is a innovation of the British to properly destroy nationalism in India. Understand this point and you will understand forever understand the concept of communalism in India. Communalism was created actively through the separate electorate concept. And if you can understand this, you will forever understand British colonialism. Make sense, everybody? Joint electorate is not a bad thing. In India, we have SC/ST as a reservation when it comes to joint electorate based reservation in seats. And you would have heard about this concept of women also asking for reservation now. Under the seat that we want reserved seats for women in the parliament. But that reservation is also going to be based on the concept of joint electorates. Get my point? Because this has now become a very relevant concept. So from Plassey to national movement, they literally divide us and by politics. That is the basic point. Yes. If they wanted to break nationalism, they still couldn't, as seen in 1940. That is true. But you will see that the rioting will become more and more common. It will become so hard to not. I'll tell you, till 1936, Pakistan was not inevitable. But by 1945, it was inevitable that Pakistan will be created. Sir, how to, this shows how much British, yes. You are saying it is unprecedented. It was something important, always did. See, understand this point, Jaswant. I am calling it unprecedented because, see, if there is no type of politics like this, you tell me one thing. I'll give you a very simple example for this. I want a slide. Yes, okay. See, the British did divide and rule. Internal political division is something okay. Why am I saying it is unprecedented? Because this is a very dangerous model. I'll tell you why. Simple. I'm telling you something which I will tell you later. You see. August of 1946. Interim government is formed. August, September. Jinnah starts to do a drama that I will not join the interim government. October of 1946, he will do a tantrum and then he will join the interim government. Between October 1946 to 1947 March, he will keep on saying that I will not let India get independence if you don't give me a separate nation. So he was delaying it here. In what we call as the February Declaration of 1947, Attlee had said that we will give independence in 1948. But as soon as Mountbatten came in March of 1947, he said that this country is at the verge of civil war. So give them independence by August of 1947 itself. This August 1947 is the reason why partition will happen in such a bad way that 60 lakh people will die everywhere. 60 lakh people will die in Punjab and in Bengal. I'll give you one more thing. Wavell Conference happened 1945. The single-handed reason why Wavell Conference actually broke down was because Jinnah walked out. In 1940, I'll not even forget about 1940. I'll give you a very simple example. 1931, you would have heard something called Gandhi-Irwin Pact. You know about Gandhi-Irwin Pact? Under which Bhagat Singh was not saved by Gandhi. We will be discussing it next week. Under Gandhi-Irwin Pact, Gandhi agreed to go to second roundtable conference. You will find this digressive, but it is very important for you to understand why I call it unprecedented. This is something I will tell you for sure, but I'm already telling you because you want to have a conversation about this. 1931, Gandhi-Irwin Pact, Gandhi will say, I will go to London for the second roundtable conference. Gandhi becomes a spectacle. Everybody thinks Gandhi has come. Now Indian dominion status for sure we will get something for sure. And Irwin had done a major blunder by sending Gandhi. That is why Irwin was removed within 1 month. Wellington was sent, Irwin was brought back. They said, we told you to negotiate with Gandhi, not to go and do shashtang in front of Gandhi. This is the reason why Gandhi impact, as soon as Gandhi impact happened, Irwin is brought back. You did a pact with an INC, equal footing. Now everybody thought, Wellington thought, and Churchill thought, not Churchill. Churchill is not in power, but he's the conservative leader. He's what's called shadow parliament. He's the shadow prime minister. They say that we have now given Gandhi too much power. How do we undercut it? 31. Going for dominion status. And you know what happens? The British very simply discredit the INC, discredit Gandhi. Gandhi says, I represent India. So, Churchill says, which India? He says, all of India. And he says, okay, we want to give separate electorates to, we have already given it to Sikhs, we've already given it to the Anglo-Indians, we will give it to depressed classes also. And now, there's a proper deadlock in the second roundtable conference. That is called the Minorities Pact versus Gandhi. Gandhi kept on saying that no separate electorates to depressed classes. They are part of Hinduism. They are not separate. But the depressed classes and all other bodies which had got separate electorates, they said, no, he does not represent us. You see, Gandhi and INC were discredited in 1931 that INC does not represent India. This is the power of the separate electorates. That people said that Gandhi does not represent us, INC does not represent us. They are saying no, they have no separate electorates. We want separate electorates. So this is the seed which is going to grow to become a very, very dangerous tree, not in the first 30 years, but later. See, I'll tell you about Jinnah also later. Jinnah did not know what he was doing. When the cabinet mission asked Jinnah, this is the last point I'll make, then I'll write the points of 1909. When Jinnah was asked by the cabinet mission that, okay, you want Pakistan? He said, yes. He said, हाँ, मुझे Pakistan चाहिए. I want Pakistan. Yes. They said, this is the map of India. Tell us where is Pakistan. Tell us where is Pakistan. Jinnah, on the map which he got, he made Pakistan here, 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 and here. Cabinet mission said that either you are drunk or you're high on something. You don't even know what you want. The expression which was used was moth-eaten Pakistan. That some insect came and ate a biscuit, and what was left was Pakistan. And that is why cabinet mission straight away rejected the concept of Pakistan. They said Jinnah does not know what he wants. Jinnah does not know what he wants. This is the irony of the story. And when Pakistan was created, Jinnah's plan was, he said, I love Bombay, and Jinnah's wife till today is actually in Bombay. She's buried in Bombay. He said, India can take Karachi, you give us Bombay. So Nehru said that I request you that you leave without getting a slap from me in this room. Because he said, I like Bombay. So you take Karachi, give me Bombay. He said, you take what you want to take, just take it and leave. That is the level of irritation which the Muslim League will do, and Jinnah was so confused. So don't worry, I will be telling you this story. what is this concept of Jinnah's politics and what is the concept of Pakistan. What I want you to understand right now is very simple. Morley-Minto reforms 1909 till today is considered the genesis of Pakistan. Because if the Muslim League or Muslims had not got separate electorates here, still, maybe Pakistan would have been not inevitable. And I will tell you one more very simple thing. When in 1936, the first time elections will happen in India properly after Government of India Act 1935, guess what was the vote share of the Muslim League in separate electorates itself? Within Muslims, how much was the guess? How much was the vote share of Jinnah, of Muslim League? Guess. Within the separate electorate concept, within Muslims, 3%. 97% of Muslims did not agree with Jinnah. But when it will happen in 1946, that will become 87 to 93% vote share. This is the power between 1936 and 37 of communalism. That a person who was a minuscule authority, not even nothing, became such a big hero. We'll talk about that. Let's summarize 1909 and we can end for today. Morley-Minto reforms, separate electorates, everybody understands. So if I read it out, it will make sense to you. I hope that this conversation at least opens up certain new understandings for you. Because Pakistan was never a given thing. And Jinnah himself was confused. And Jinnah never thought that he will get it also. But the point was that all politics which the British does, what you see today as a hatred towards a nation and what we see as antagonism between communities in India is all British created. A point I cannot emphasize enough. So Morley-Minto reforms, the context is that extremism is rising, individual heroism is happening. Now they have no other option but to do something. So what they did was that they increased the number of elected members in the imperial and provincial legislative councils. Most of the elected members were now elected indirectly, directly, but through certain process for sure. You don't have to remember this, but see, 69 members were there in the Central Legislative Council, and out of that, 36 were official, which is still the highest number is with the British. 5 were nominated non-officials. 27 were elected, out of which 6 were big landlords, 2 were British capitalists. So basically, out of this 27, still only 18 had to get elected. But in that 18 election, there is still separate electorates applied. The second major change under the 1909 Act is a drama which the British do, which is for the first time it was mandated that one member is going to be mandated under the act in the executive council of the viceroy to be an Indian. This is the first time an Indian got associated with the executive council with Satyendra Sinha, or his name is also written like this, Satyendra Nath Sinha, and he will be the law member. This is a very major development because the British had to do something. 1892 had not given them anything other than indirect elections. But 1861, that is not entry into Akash, into executive council. That is entry into legislative council. This is into executive council. Further, 2 Indians will be there in the India House Council in London. So out of that Secretary of State 15 members, I will make the flowchart and give you the summary. Now 2 members have to be Indians. The Legislative Council word properly was used for the first time in this act. Separate representation for Zamindars, Chamber of Commerce, Calcutta, Universities Corporation. But this is the second most important act. Separate electorates. Muslims represented in excess of the strength of their population according to Muslims. And income qualification was lower than Hindus, and that is why he is known as the father of communal electorate in India. So this is the structure when India was given or the India Council was reorganized under 1892, and 1909. One second. 1909. 1909 Morley Minto reforms. And please be very clear one more thing. A reporter asked Morley in 1909 in London that what is the ultimate purpose of the British in India? What is the ultimate purpose of the British in India? And his answer was that the ultimate purpose of the British in India is to rule India. And we are not here to teach anything to the Indians. We are not here to give them any power. We are just purely there to rule India. Remember this line because tomorrow you will see a complete U-turn by 1917. And I'll tell you why, but this is a very important line. Now, 1909 Morley Minto reforms. I will make the structure for you first and then I will make you the point. Secretary of State plus 15 members. India House or Council. Governor General of India and Viceroy. He has his legislative council. Executive council. He then has Governor of Madras, Bengal, Bombay, Awadh, Northwestern Frontier, and Punjab. All of them have their PLCs. And the simple point is legislative council. Here. Everywhere. Separate electorates is introduced. Further, one Indian member mandated, and here 2 Indian members mandated. This is basically the gist of the whole act. 3 major changes. And if you see, the structure remains more or less constant. So you have seen Indian Council Act 61, 92, 1909. Because now what we do will be called Government of India Acts. 61 gives you legislative decentralization. Legislative decentralization, as we did in the morning, which is provincial legislative councils. It gives 3 Indians to the legislative council also. And this basically starts a trend. This one is known for indirect elections. And this one is known for 3 things. Please remember, these are key words to be looked in the examination. One, which is separate electorate. Then 1 in Executive Council and 2 in India House, which is Indians. If you can remember this, our story of constitutional history, we'll add 1919 tomorrow. We will start with Bombay, Bengal. I very categorically did not start revolutionary activities because there's a chain there. If I break it, then it will make no sense over 1-2 days. So very simply, tomorrow we start revolutionary activities. Then we will go into Gadar, then we'll go into Gandhi South African experience, Champaran Kheda, Ahmedabad, and then we will bring back Gandhi into Rowlatt Satyagraha, Jallianwala Bagh, and end with non-cooperation movement. So please understand this point that Communalism is something which is totally not given in India, but created systematically by the British. If you can understand this point, this is where we stop today. We'll be back here again and with a different set. By tomorrow, we will be at Chauri Chora. Chauri Chora, and next day, next week, we'll start from Chauri Chora. We'll go into Swaraj's No Changes. Then we'll go into Simon Commission. Then we'll go into CDM. Then we'll go into Bhagat Singh, HRA, HSRA, Gandhi and Bhagat Singh. Thereafter, we'll go into Gandhi and Bose, Haripuri Tripuri session, Government of India at 1935, elections of 1935. Thereafter, Congress ministries, August offer, Cripps mission, Wavell conference, cabinet mission. Then we will have the discussion related to how does the INC respond to the Second World War. After cabinet mission, we will go straight to what is called Ismay and Dickey Bird, Mountbatten Plan, Indian independence. This is basically what is going to be there. So we have today, tomorrow, today, then next Saturday, Sunday, and then one Saturday. So we'll by next Sunday we will finish give India independence, and by next to next Saturday we'll be doing post independence one whole day. Right? Okay. No issues, Justin. No issues. Right? So I will see you tomorrow, same time. Please note 10 a.m., 10 to 8. We will finish everything. Right? Okay. 3 members in CLC under 1861. Yes. Email ID, my email ID would be abhishek.mishra19@byju's.com. I am keeping track of our targets. I very categorically stop places or delay the start of something because I don't want you to be having a fragmented knowledge. Modern India is a very connected thing. If you can understand the connections, you will always remember it. Abhishek.mishra19. When will PT start? PT means PI, post independence. Prelims test series starts mid now. This by 15th or 16th it will start. Okay. See you tomorrow. Same time. Bye bye. 10 a.m. Remember. Thank you.